In a small, cozy cottage with a bright red door lived two kittens. One was as black as a moonless night, with eyes like shiny green emeralds. His name was Sooty. The other was as white as freshly fallen snow, with eyes the color of a summer sky. Her name was Snowdrop. They were brother and sister, and they were the very best of friends. From the moment they woke up until they curled up to sleep, they were never apart. They chased sunbeams across the wooden floor and pounced on rustling leaves in the garden. Their days were filled with happy games and gentle purrs. Sooty and Snowdrop were not just playful, they were also incredibly brave. One evening, while their owner, a kind old lady named Mrs. Higgins, was dozing in her armchair, they heard a strange noise at the back door. Two shadowy figures were trying to quietly open the lock. Sooty, with his dark fur, crept silently along the hallway. Snowdrop followed close behind, a little white ghost in the dim light. They knew they had to protect their home and their beloved Mrs. Higgins. They felt a little bit scared, but being together made them feel strong and determined to do something. With a sudden, coordinated leap, they sprang into action. Sooty launched himself at one of the intruder's legs, digging his tiny claws into the man's trousers. At the same time, Snowdrop let out the loudest, most ferocious hiss she could manage. It sounded more like a tiny dragon than a little kitten. The two men were so startled by the sudden attack from the darkness that they yelped in surprise. They hadn't expected a fierce two-kitten security team. They stumbled backwards, tripping over each other in their haste to get away from the tiny, furious creatures. They ran away from the cottage as fast as their legs could carry them. Mrs. Higgins woke with a start at the commotion. She saw her two little heroes standing proudly by the door, their tails held high. She scooped them both up into her arms, cuddling them close and stroking their soft fur. "Oh, you clever, brave little things," she whispered, her voice full of love and relief. "You saved me. You are my little guardians." She gave them a special treat of warm milk and a little piece of salmon. Sooty and Snowdrop purred loudly, feeling very proud of themselves. They knew they were loved more than anything in the world, and they loved their home and their kind owner just as much. One sunny morning, Mrs. Higgins decided to take the kittens on an adventure. She was going to visit her sister who lived by the seaside, and she wanted Sooty and Snowdrop to see the ocean for the first time. She placed their favorite soft blanket inside a comfortable carrier, and the two kittens snuggled inside, excited for the journey. The car ride was wonderful. Sooty and Snowdrop peered out of the window, their eyes wide with wonder. They watched the green fields and tall trees whiz by. The gentle rumble of the car engine was like a soothing lullaby, and they felt safe and happy, tucked together in their cozy little space. The sun shone brightly, and the world outside the car window was a beautiful picture of rolling hills and fluffy white clouds. Mrs. Higgins sang a cheerful song as she drove, and the kittens occasionally meowed along with her tune. Snowdrop batted playfully at Sooty's twitching tail, and he pretended to pounce on her in return. They were having such a lovely time, dreaming of chasing seagulls and feeling the sand between their paws. It was a perfect day, filled with the promise of fun and new discoveries. Nothing in the world seemed like it could possibly go wrong. They were together, they were loved, and they were on an adventure. But then, everything changed in a terrifying instant. As their little car went around a sharp bend in the road, another car came speeding towards them from the opposite direction. It swerved wildly, its tires screeching loudly on the tarmac. Mrs. Higgins gasped and turned the wheel sharply to avoid a collision. There was a horrible, loud bang, and the world outside the window spun around in a dizzying blur of green and blue. The kitten carrier was thrown from the seat, and everything went dark. The happy, sunny day had suddenly turned into a frightening, confusing nightmare. When Snowdrop slowly opened her eyes, she was alone. The carrier door had broken open in the crash, and she was lying on the damp grass at the side of the road. She felt dizzy and very scared. She called out for her brother, a tiny trembling meow. "Sooty, Sooty, where are you?" But there was no answer. She could hear the sound of sirens in the distance, getting closer and closer. She looked around desperately, but her beloved black kitten was nowhere to be seen. The world felt cold and empty without him beside her. She was all alone, lost and heartbroken. For days, Snowdrop wandered alone. The world was a big, scary place without Sooty to make her feel brave, and Mrs. Higgins to keep her safe. Every rustle in the bushes made her jump, and every loud noise sent her scurrying for cover. Her once pristine white fur was now dirty and matted, and her tummy rumbled with hunger. She missed the warmth of her brother snuggled up beside her at night. She missed the comforting sound of his purr. She felt so lonely, a tiny ball of sadness in a world that seemed far too big and frightening for one little kitten. She curled up under a thorny bush, shivering from cold and fear. One afternoon, as she was hiding near a park, she heard the sound of happy laughter. A little boy was throwing a bright red ball for his dog. The boy's name was Leo, and he had a kind face and gentle eyes. After a while, he sat down on a bench to have a snack. He unwrapped a sandwich and took a big bite. Snowdrop's nose twitched. She could smell the delicious scent of ham. She was so hungry, but she was also very scared. She remembered Mrs. Higgins and how kind she had been, but she didn't know if this new person would be friendly. Leo spotted the little white kitten hiding under the bush. He saw how frightened and thin she looked. "Hello there," he said softly, his voice calm and quiet so as not to scare her. "Are you lost, little one?" He broke off a tiny piece of ham from his sandwich and held it out on the palm of his hand. He didn't move any closer but waited patiently for the kitten to come to him. Snowdrop watched him carefully. He didn't seem like a threat. His voice was gentle and his eyes were full of concern. Her hunger was stronger than her fear. Slowly, hesitantly, Snowdrop crept out from under the bush. She took one shaky step, then another, until she was close enough to sniff the tiny piece of meat. It smelled so good. With a quick dart of her head, she snatched the ham from Leo's hand and scurried back to her hiding place. Leo smiled. He put another small piece on the ground, a little closer to the bench this time. He did this again and again, each time moving the food a little bit closer, until Snowdrop was eating right beside his shoe. He didn't try to touch her. He just sat very still, letting her see that he meant her no harm. Leo carefully scooped the little kitten into his jacket and took her home. His mom helped him clean her fur and gave her a bowl of warm milk. They made a soft bed for her in a cardboard box with a fluffy towel inside. They decided to call her Pearl because even under all the dirt, her fur had a beautiful pearly shine. For the first few days, Pearl was very shy. She spent most of her time hiding in her box, only coming out when no one was watching to eat the food they left for her. She missed Sooty terribly, and the new sounds and smells of the house were overwhelming. Leo was very patient. Every day he would sit quietly near her box and talk to her in a soft, soothing voice. He told her all about his toys, his friends, and his favorite books. He never tried to force her to come out. He would just dangle a piece of string near the box, wiggling it gently. One afternoon, a little white paw slowly reached out from the box and batted at the string. Leo's heart filled with joy. It was the first time she had wanted to play. Slowly, day by day, Pearl began to trust him and his family. She started to explore the house, her curiosity finally winning over her fear. She discovered that Leo's mom gave the best chin scratches and that his dad would sometimes drop little bits of chicken for her at dinner time. She loved chasing Leo's shoelaces as he got ready for school and curling up on his lap in the evening while he did his homework. She was starting to feel happy again. The deep sadness in her heart was still there, a little ache for her lost brother, but a new feeling of love and safety was beginning to grow around it, like a warm, comforting blanket. One night, a loud crash from the kitchen woke the whole family. A stray dog had managed to push open the back door and was trying to raid the bin. Without a moment's hesitation, Pearl shot down the stairs. She remembered how she and Sooty had protected their old home. She arched her back, her fur standing on end, and let out a loud, courageous hiss. The big dog was so surprised to be confronted by the brave little cat that it yelped and scrambled back out of the door. Leo ran down and scooped her up. "You're our little hero, Pearl," he said, hugging her tightly. In that moment, surrounded by her new family's love, Pearl knew she was home. She had found a new beginning and a new love to fill her heart.